What's up, YouTube? Now you see the title of this video and you see the image that I have on the screen. So if you haven't heard, right? If you haven't heard, like, you see the title. I'm gonna briefly go over this whole thing, right, with this return to the land stuff. Everybody's been, kinda been talking about. I've been seeing certain content creators mention, specifically, I saw that coon ass nigga Anton Daniels, give his input, and he's just samboing and cooning and shucking and jiving, right? I'm gonna make a separate video going over his response to it, to this whole thing, right? That's gonna be my next video after this for sure, cause I gotta call that coon ass nigga out, man. Yeah, I've been meaning to make a video on him. I gotta do that. The Angry Man video is gonna have to wait. Anton's gonna have to go first. Now, if you don't know what this is yet, this return to the land stuff, you see the title, right? It's a whites only town that's being created. And excuse it if the noise in the background. I'm driving. I'm about to go see this Superman movie and see if it's good or not. It's a lot of mixed reviews, so I'm gonna record this video real quick on my way there, and I'm gonna do my breakdown of Anton Daniels after that. But anyway, this return to the land stuff, right? It's apparently a whites only town that is being made in like Arkansas and the Ozarks, right? And there's a lot of people talking about it, or I've seen some posts about it and whatnot, and there's a lot of mixed responses. And the claim of these individuals is that they want to preserve, quote unquote, American white culture. I'm gonna explain what they mean about white American culture in a minute, because they're just LARPing really hard right now, preserving white American culture. It's actually laughable. What culture are we talking about? I'll get to that, but this is their claim. They're trying to preserve white American culture, and they think their whites are under attack. All the bullshit these white nationalists go on about, just crying and bitching about shit that's not even in existence, right? Because see, here's the problem. Here's the real problem with this whole thing, right? Because there's mixed reviews to this. You got people saying that, let them self-segregate. That's their right. This and that. That's their right to do that. Yeah, whites is under attack. That's their right to self-segregate, to preserve whiteness, white culture. And a lot of the coons are saying that. The Sambo niggas, they just, shucking and jiving. Like I said, man, they just doing the most for Massa, and Massa don't fuck with them. But they're gonna continue to coon and Sambo. So the Sambos, that's their response. That's the big Sambo response, right? And then you have the people like me and others who are like, they can do whatever the hell they want to do. Here's the funny thing. Nobody who, because the white nationalists, right? And I've said this in past videos. I've said that, hey, man, y'all keep complaining about this society and whoop-de-whoop. You're too bitch-made to address the real issue, which is the white elites. You want to run around and say it's the Jews and all this and blame the blacks. So go make your white ethno-state and shut the fuck up. Now, the thing that I've said in past videos is that, y'all claim to have built the world and pioneered everything and invented everything. So, my challenge to them was to go to a random plot of land, some acres of land, right? And to build a civilization from scratch, right? Now, they're not actually doing that. They're using technology that's already been created, that's already in existence. But we know they're not going to do that. If they were to go into a plot of land with nothing but just, even if we say, hey, just the clothes on your back, and nothing else, and build, pioneer, right? Figure out how to invent shit like you claim you did. They wouldn't be able to do it. But nonetheless, they have gone to the little white ethno state. This is what they trying to do with their town. This shit has already been done, really, with the Aryan Nation and whatnot in Idaho. But see, the problem with this that I find funny is that they have gone to they've carved out this little white ethno state, and they're saying all the bullshit reasons. But see, you know, my thing is, right, like, the racists going and doing that, that's cool. You know, they're doing people a favor, to be honest. But one of the things that I want to highlight with this really is that you can say that, oh, they're going and doing the little ethno state, you know, and oh, they're not hurting anybody and all this shit. But see, there's two things in this that need to be addressed that I find hypocritical. One is when black people talk about systemic racism, right, in a society, and they talk about how, you know, there's people in positions who can systemically affect the progress of the Negro. You know, all of the Sambos, like Anton Daniels and others, will come out and say that, oh, that don't exist. You're being a victim. Your racism is, you're just making shit up. But we have an example of some white people who are racist, who have that ideology. Now, they can run around and say they're not, but all this is rooted in, I'm going to get to the overall the truth behind why they're really doing this and what this all is about. But, you know, they're racist, right? And they have anti-black sentiments. The funny thing is, in the video, because there's a video, Sky News went and interviewed them and whatnot, right? In the video, if you go to that video of them talking about it, you go to the comment section, it's nothing but white people in there, you know, bringing up black people. Every other comment I was reading is the blacks. It's just like the obsession that they have, right? It's absolutely amazing. It has nothing to do with preserving whiteness. They don't really care about white people. Like I said, I'll get to what the real reason is towards the end of this video. But, you know, back to what I was saying with the systemic racism, right? Anton Daniels and other Sambo coons will act like there's no systemic racism. This doesn't exist. But yet we have some people here that have this sentiment of anti-blackness. Now, we would be stupid to act like there's not people in the society, of course, that think like them and that have positions of power in certain areas, right? And those people can enact systemic, they can disenfranchise, you know, groups of people that they despise systemically, you know, i.e. black people, right? They can engage in systemic racism and affect the progress of the Negro. They can do that, right? Who have these sentiments. So to say there's no systemic racism, the irony is this whole thing right here debunks that, you know, in a way. For like a Sambo like Anton Daniels to even mention, it's like, bruh, you know, you need to go over there and be like, well, you see this shit, Anton Daniels, you say there's no systemic racism, but are we gonna act like there's not people like this that you know, inhabit positions of power that can systemically affect the progress of the Negro? You know, I mean, you unironically are debunking yourself, dumb nigga. And, you know, like I said, I'm gonna do my separate video on Anton Daniels, but, you know, these Sambos, man, they lack, I mean, the intellect of these niggas is incredible. And not in terms of their high intellect, but it's incredible how dumb they are. Because they will literally debunk themselves time and time again. And it makes sense because, you know, their white god who they worship does the same shit. The white nationalists, they constantly debunk themselves here and there. They're too stupid to see it. But this whole return to the land, I'm going to tell you what this is really about, right? I'm going to tell you why these people are really doing this. This has nothing to do with preserving white culture. This has nothing to do with, you know, oh, we're worried about the future of white children, 1488, all that dumb shit. This has nothing to do with that. These white racists don't give a fuck about the future of the so-called white race. They don't care about any of that shit. They will gaslight all day and act like they do, but they really don't. I'm going to tell you what this is really about. First, as I've said in prior videos, when it really boils down to it, the whole white nationalist shit, the whole we was Vikings, we was civilization builders and shit, what all this shit really boils down to is the white inferiority. And what I mean by that is, a lot of these individuals who have these sentiments that run around with this racist shit and, you know, black people live rent-free in their head, there's a deep-seated inferiority that they have within themselves that is really seldom talked about. You see, the white nationalists, they suffer from an inferiority complex, and in order to cope with that inferiority complex, the perfect storm is white supremacy. You see, since the elites have control of the system and they, you know, people, you know, they present as white, I'll just say that. The people who really control shit is on a whole nother level. That's a whole nother video. But we'll stick to the base, right? They're white, right? So the elites who control the world are white. It's not debatable that white people control the earth. This is not debatable. All the white nationalists that run around talking about it's the Jews. The Jews are still white. They are white. All right, there's no debating this. They're just delusional. So, and the funny thing with the Jews, they're up there on the hierarchy, but they're not the top, right? It's a whole nother group. That's a whole nother video. But the people who control this world are white. They have the most power. So the white nationalists, right? A lot of these white nationalists, like I said, they suffer from immense inferiority. And in order to cope with that inferiority, you know, the perfect storm for them is, white supremacy. The whole, mustache man stuff in Germany. All this stuff they latch on to. The Aryan race, all this nonsense. They use that as a coping mechanism to cope with their existence. Grandstanding on other groups of people is how they get by day to day. They have to feel superior to other people to cope with their existence. This is why they're always online, day in and day out, talking about black people, talking about how we was Vikings, we was civilization builders and shit. We built the worlds, the white man invented everything, the whole funny thing with the whole we was kings shit is that they are the we was kings meme. It's them. It's all they do every single day. This is why I don't even go on Twitter, bro, because it's just 4chan at this point, and it's all just white male coat day in and day out. It's incredible. So because they have this ideology of white inferiority, well, should I say, because they have this white inferiority, they latch on to this ideology of white supremacy in order to help them cope. And they refuse to address the real issue, right? They don't want to address the fact that the real reason society is fucked up, the real reason everything is crumbling is because the elites who are white do not want to fix it. They have a whole nother agenda. And it's a lot more sinister than what these idiots is running around trying to say. Nobody is attacking the so-called whites. The elites, they want to have complete and utter control. They want to basically have it to where we're in a situation where it's like, and shout out to Sergeant Willie Pete, where it's like Elysium, right? It's funny he uses that, example, because I've thought this plenty of times myself. That's literally what they want to do. And if you know that, like, what, how deep the elites are with their shit, they do their predictive programming. So, Elysium, is a movie, right? It's fiction, but they're basically putting it in your face, what they want, what their goal is, right? And that's really what it is. So, in order for them to prevent anybody from rising up and going against the elites, you got to have these idiots running around talking about, it's the blacks' fault, right? It's the blacks, right? It's the Jews. It's the trees. It's the butterflies. It's the caterpillars. Anybody but white people. They refuse to take accountability for anything, but yet they want to take credit for all of the supposed good that they claim their ancestors have done. They want to take all the credit, but take none of the blame. And it's hilarious, man, because it's all they do, day in and day out. So this whole thing with them doing this return to the land and all this, it's really just a way to avoid the real issue. They want to act like it's the blacks' fault, it's the Jews, it's this and that. They've been, lulled into this nonsense, this Nazi psyop, and they don't want to address the real issue. Them going to a white ethno state is not going to fix shit. They're still going to be crying, they're still going to be bitching, they're still going to be complaining, because the real issue is not fixed. The real issue is not fixed. The elites still have all the power. If they wanted to, they could run into that quote-unquote whites-only town and decimate it overnight. They can do that. They can do whatever the fuck they want. If we're not going to attack the real issue, then nothing's going to change. So they're powerless. They have no power. And see, this is another thing. They run around with this nonsense that we was Vikings, and they tell themselves how great they are and we're high IQs. But they see that really, ultimately, they know deep down none of that is true. They know they don't have any power. They know that this is all, they got to tell themselves this lie in order to believe it. So, if we're not going to address the real issue, we're not going to get anywhere. And the elites look at this and they laugh and they're rubbing their hands. It's like, good. The more division there is, the less chance of another Bacon's Rebellion. It's just that simple. And these idiots, they're just too dumb to see it, man. They're just too dumb to see it. It's laughable how they act, man. It's laughable. It's laughable, man. But I'm gonna be honest, it's really all I gotta say for this video. I do gotta go in on Anton Daniels, man, because his response to the shit was hilarious. The video I saw, so I'm gonna review that video. These people, man, they're just delusional. They don't want to address the real issue. They want to run away from the real issue. They want to blame everybody but themselves, or at least the people who look like them, who are in control. Like I said, they want to take all the credit, saying what quote unquote we did, even though they weren't around, but they don't want to take none of the blame. So the pathology of these people is incredible, man. It really is. The obsession too, like I said earlier, man, they're in the comment section. If you go actually watch the full interview that they had, they're just constantly talking about black people in the comment section, man. Every other comment I was reading, it's just the blacks. It's just these people are, they like I said, they don't really care about the future of white this and that. They're really, what their real concern is like in their lifetime, they don't want shit to be fucked up. They don't care about no 300 years down the line. They could give 2 fucks. But that's all I gotta say for this video, man. I'm out.